In our match one of the day, Pokerface had quite a few cards up their sleeve. Turns out enough to walk away with every last dollar put down at the table. FM, they're going home broke. Whoever's waiting there ain't going to be happy that they gambled away all the rent money, but at least FM put up a good fight, as good as a 3-0 can be.
As good as a 3-0 and 2 maps not taking a point. That was the other thing. It was close on that one map, kind of, I guess.
It wasn't. They almost got 2 points on Flashpoint. Anyways, we move on to our second match of the night. It's EUPHORIA, formerly known as Rhodes, versus Simprissa Gaming. Another head-to-head here like we saw earlier the week. Teams coming back from the Contenders knockouts. Quite a few changes for both of these squads.
Hold on.
EUPHORIA, what's going on here? Okay, so we got Lijiang coming back. Love to see him. Sierra on the roster. Cool. Sunjin, what are you doing on tank, my brother? And why have you selected Doomfist?
Well, here's the thing.
I thought it was going to be Zarya.
Sunjin has actually won NA Contenders.
On DPS!
On DPS. Goes back in on the tank role. Okay.
My man's trying to get the Contenders title smorgasbord. He's going to win this season and then move to support next season of Contenders in a different region. What's going on here, EUPHORIA? I mean, I was excited to see Lijiang play again. You know, we haven't seen him. He's really young, so he wasn't able to play in the
Lijiang also played in North America last season, too.
That's true. Not quite as successful. And then we move to the other side of things, Simprissa Gaming, a roster we're a little bit more familiar with, at least in the backline and tank roles. Wuchan, Lee Soo-min coming back to this team now. I mean, Lee Soo-min got his start on SPG last year. Then after a not so successful run with the Seoul Dynasty, has gone back to bread and butter. Notably missing from at least the starting lineup, though, are Aid and Although. Instead, Argon coming in and KSJ with, I believe, a Contenders Korea debut.
Yes, this is an interesting lineup, and we'll see. I wonder how much of this is going to be... The thing is, when you move into a new meta, right, maybe their hero picks are just better than their counterparts.
You're telling me that between Argon and KSJ, one of them has a better Genji in their pocket than Although?
Well, SPG are saying that. We'll see how well it turns out once we get into Lijiang Tower.
It's gonna take quite a bit of convincing. Yeah, Lijiang is our first map of the series here. I really just have no idea. I mean, maybe we see, with Lijiang Tower being map 1, maybe we see SPG abandon the meta entirely. Like, Milgaru, first and foremost, is a Wrecking Ball player.
Yeah.
Maybe he's going to try and play some wacky Wrecking Ball comps and we see something crazy come out to support him from KSJ and Argon.
The thing, man, think about Milgaru's career. It's been actually fairly recent, too. It's a very young player, just overall, right? Even on a starting roster. Share time last season with Tuyu. It was called in to bring, like, and then when Tuyu was picked up, was called in, played a little bit of Orisa. You know, we obviously saw the Wrecking Ball, some Winston too. It felt uncomfortable off the Wrecking Ball though. And
it felt very uncomfortable.
So now in a meta that really forces your tank to be like a little bit more flexible, how well can SPG hold up? And I mean, also with the fact that it's essentially a debut for KSJ, how are you going to do it against two players that on low ping? Lijiang again now playing in Korea. Able to take such aggressive angles that he was famous for the last time he played in Contenders Korea. Doesn't have to play nearly as safe as he did in NA.
Wait, the Doomfist wasn't a bait. He's not even touching the Zarya. He showed it in spawn. That's it. We got Doomfist into the Orisa, but it's good to the Bastion, right? We have seen the Doomfist play into the Bastion pretty consistently on like the Overwatch League patch, right? For like lanes and stuff.
Yeah.
Unplayable, but you have to accomplish quite a bit with it. Oh! Okay, it's fine. I thought he was gonna get speared off the map, but he's good.
Also, for context, only one player has actually managed to make the Doomfist work in this sort of matchup. That was Gusha on the Spark. So, those are pretty big shoes to fill.
Sunjin just gets farmed, diving way too deep and getting slowed down by the Symmetra turret. Lijiang good for 1, but we'll need quite a bit more than that to try and flip this around, and already SPG are getting some percent.
Also, another highlight, Wuchan on the main support role, playing the Lucio. Historically, I mean, was a DPS player seasons ago, then moved over to flex support, and now making a debut on main support here on this map.
I mean, I guess with Lee Soo-min back in the mix, you want him on flex more than anything else. Sunjin dancing around the objective, but is really just waving past SPG as he flies around the map. Not accomplishing a whole lot. Lijiang, ooh, sees a vulnerable target, and Sunjin rather helps him clean that up. No one now to benefit from this amplification matrix laid down by Lee Sumin. Garu struggling to hang on to the corner of the map too. I mean, Orisa's still tanky despite some of the nerfs, so with Lee Sumin still in the backline, yeah, you gotta focus him down before you worry about Garu. Ooh, Sierra back on the Soldier 76, that's quite consistent damage you can pump in, and it's too much for SPG to bear, especially with the Kitsune Rush bolstering Euphoria.
Right, and the Kitsune Rush also solves Soldier's biggest problem, which is burst damage. You get Helix Rocket twice as fast, and of course, that amount of sustain is not capable of being kept up with. So, labored, I think is a fair thing to say about that fight from Euphoria. And the question now is, how well can they hold on to the point? Keep in mind, the Orisa wants to set up shop on the objective. And if Garu can do that, then things can go well for them. Euphoria has to prevent that from happening, and I mean, they've done it well so far. Isolated pickoffs back to back.
I mean, hey, you never have to worry about SPG getting to the point if you just kill one of them before they can even think about setting up.
I mean, surely we get a better teleport now from Argo to just kind of bypass this entire crossing phase. Surely.
I mean, even once you do, the problem is that Lijiang and Sierra have farmed up quite a bit, and Search has matched Buchan on the sound barrier charge now. You're on a pretty tricky angle here too. So not quite getting all the way out. Pushed off the edge. Oh yeah, watch Doomfist doesn't have enough mobility to get back up from that one. Lijiang has to use the entirety of a blade, just deflecting and eating some damage from KSJ. Things not going so well, and SPG quickly get the point back once they get there.
I mean, here's where it becomes a problem, right? When the Orisa sets up on the point, how do you dislodge her? I mean, coupled with the fact, like, the blade entirely nullified, Tactical Visor is not going to get anything. I mean, sure, you get a little bit of a Lucio diff, but that's nothing. That's not worth anything but bragging rights. Right? Like, it really. How does Euphoria get in? Genuinely, how does Euphoria get in? Ant Matrix.
I mean, it feels like they just have to kind of force down the door again, but it's hard to do against the Ant Matrix. Lee need to back up. Don't back up too far though, because Sierra's waiting behind you. Immortality Field is gone, and Argon's caught out on the bridge. Nice work from Sierra, who has pincered onto SPG. That was beautifully done in the Kitsune Rush to ensure that Euphoria take the point without a problem.
That's such an expensive fight for Euphoria, though. That's everything they had at the ready. Now they actually have to solve the same problem. Don't let SPG get to the point.
Look, just get another 2 picks. Easy peasy.
Yeah. Well, you know what? In fairness, that is easier said than it was before, because Argon has gone over to Sombra, a character that has been so far out of the meta for so long that I'm not entirely sure what the thought process is here.
Hack Sunjin. That's as far as I got. Ooh, nice bit of damage laid down by Sunjin too. No wonder they want to hack him, but the hack doesn't last long enough. Meteor Strike comes in, deals quite a bit of damage, gives him some shield. Is it enough to tank it? Yes! Sunjin gets out just barely, but lets Lijiang take the mini pack there. So now Sunjin struggling to find an angle to come back into the fight. Finally gets healed up, but Sierra's already fallen. 99 to 99 we go now. No ults in sight for Euphoria, unless Lijiang pulls off something miraculous. And here comes the pain from SPG. Beat to charge forward. Terra Surge to get rid of the members on the point. Lijiang falls. And Euphoria, hard fought on round number 1, but it will go to SPG instead.
The highs for Euphoria were so very high, but man,
Euphoric?
the lows just aren't something
I have to make the joke once.
At.
Just once, LaFon.
I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you.
I have kind of shot really early though on that joke. I mean, this is the first map.
Stop it. Stop it.
Oh man. All right.
The thing about this composition is it's just not consistent, right?
I will say, Garu looking a little consistent with these energy javelins. Okay, well he missed that one, but he got a good one on like Lijiang and Search. I saw.
I dare say, you know what? I'm gonna defend him on that last one. He didn't miss. The wall was in the way.
Wall dived into the way to cover for Sunjin. All right, no changes to either composition other than Sierra picking up a Sojourn.
I like this a lot more. It's just more consistent, right?
Applies a lot of threat to KSJ too. That railgun's a nightmare for a Bastion. But what's more of a nightmare is Stun Police. Sun Chain. Sun City. Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. Energy javelins, dude. Nasty.
Realistically, the composition depends on can Sunjin actually do stuff and survive. And can't be a resource hog either. That's the other thing that's a problem. Is you can't take too many resources from your team, and you still need to find value. Nilgaru is essentially ignored by his teammates. That's opening up. Well, that's a good pickoff.
Yeah, nice pick from Sierra. That gives EUPHORIA at least a chance here. I mean, Taejong's just pumping in the damage too. No one's even hardly looking at him to begin, and that turret form doesn't get the follow-up, or does he? Let's fall here. Taejong tried to do a little bit more and will accomplish quite a bit. Yeah, he charges in, and EUPHORIA gets the first.
So something we already noticed from round one is that the neutral game from EUPHORIA just isn't as efficient, right? Because the way this composition has to work is that Sierra, Taejong, and Sunjin have to be on the same page. The target that they dive has to be dead. If it does not, that's the same from SPG is just going to outlast it. So, I mean, it's a game of inches, and so far, on this point, EUPHORIA have done what they need to shut SPG out.
Insta kill too. I mean, Immortality Field should have buffered that, but no. Lee Soo-min instead going for the Ant Matrix, trying to turn this 4v5 into a winnable situation. There the Immortality Field goes, and there it falls along with KSJ. Now, I mean, Sierra just laying in the damage with the help of the Kitsune Rush, and EUPHORIA have taken 2 fights pretty easily.
And I mean, that's what I was talking about in terms of the execution needs to be swift, right? Sunjin goes in, there's enough damage from the rest of the team that the combo of the shot plus punch gives them the elimination. That starts a snowball. We talked about how important first pick is, especially uncontested. EUPHORIA makes it work. Now they get to generate up to ultimates another first pick. I mean, that feels really rough for SPG here.
SPG struggling to find ways into this point now. At least they have a barrage of ultimates coming up.
Search is also going to be able to generate the sound barrier too. It's so hard for the Lucio to generate ult in this comp because he's not surrounded by his entire team, right? Lijiang gets to sit in the entirety of the group.
Early sound barrier there from SPG. No one really contesting them on the objective yet. All those shields will wear away pretty quickly. Although, putting the damage out of that Terror Surge and a lay sound barrier from Surge, no, that's not going to be enough. Not unless Sierra does something crazy with an overclock. Sunjin tried to at least give him an opening here. But no, veered into the wall. Shish kebab. And SPG are now racking the percent up.
Still, I will highlight that
was come on,
very expensive fight from SPG. The blade, Daejong's blade got both the wall from Argon and the sound barrier out without it actually being sort of in a threat, right? So now EUPHORIA, you can play aggressively with this Meteor Strike and then follow up with the overclock. No one should die in this. Good.
Sierra comes a little close, but no, EUPHORIA doing fine.
I mean, now you have window only, right?
I mean, window's quite a bit when you're Bastion alongside you. Sunjin, that's the wrong way, buddy. You gotta back up when there's that much damage being thrown at you. Now, I mean, SPG, they're just trying to pick up the stragglers here. Search, Taejong nearly caught out.
I do like that EUPHORIA reset fully, though. Like, they just get out without anyone dying. Yeah. Now, I mean, this is EUPHORIA's best opportunity in, and it is going to be, the last real fight for this point.
Overclock here. I mean, Wu-Chan almost falls, but instead Taejong was the first one to drop. That Kitsune Rush laid down for EUPHORIA to just fortify inside of, and then make their way to the objective. It will get up to 99 here for SPG, but EUPHORIA give themselves one more lease on Lijiang.
That is not a clean enough fight from EUPHORIA. That is too slow. It means that SPG are able to generate enough. That this last second contest is going to actually be in favor of SPG. Sound barrier for sustain, the wall to kind of fight through as well. And EUPHORIA have nothing. And as long as they touch, this should be SPG winning the fight.
And TP gets them there in plenty of time. Photon barrier makes it hard to even coordinate damage for EUPHORIA. I mean, look at this. Search caught. Oh, that's a lot of damage. The energy javelin misses for once. Nilgaru not able to finish off that Lucio, and EUPHORIA have buffered a lot of these ults. They've weathered some of the storm. Little sound barrier in the pocket. Narang needs to live. Taejong too. No health pack there for him for a moment. And now the beat's laid down. Search flying around, but now he's dead, and there's no sound barrier to help EUPHORIA stabilize. Narang is down next. Sierra doing what he can. Sunjin just barely getting out of there, but can't stay on the point. And SPG take map number 1.
Excellent stuff there from SPG. Consistency is key, and Hey, they make it work. It's not, I mean, it's not like a very flashy, flawless performance that we're going to speak about, you know, in ages to come. But for SPG, they don't care. They managed to win map number 1, put themselves on an easier, you know, way through as we move into hybrid, right? Now the question is, can EUPHORIA sustain those elevated levels of play that we've seen from them in portions, in flashes? Not enough to consist their way through the map. But hey, I mean, you know, the team that can win is there. They just make it appear all the time.
And for both of these teams, you know, this is the first match that we've seen them play on this meta, right? Previously, it was the Orisa heavy Bastion meta, right? The one post Sombra for like the knockouts and such. So a bit of a question remains, especially as we go into hybrid. That's where we've seen, I think, the most compositional diversity throughout any of our map types thus far this week. What are the flavors going to look like for either of these teams moving throughout the series? Are we going to keep seeing Sunjin Doomfist, for instance? Those questions will have to be answered when we come back from a break. Done with Lijiang Tower. Both our teams decided to try and cook up some interesting home meals. You know, we had normal SPG with a side of new DPS, which, you know, tasted pretty all right. I like the way that settled in my mouth. Had a good aftertaste to it too, right? What got cooked up from EUPHORIA was anything but I can't make euphoric joke again.
Well, they went for a grilled cheese. They went for a grilled cheese sandwich and it became carbon, is what happened.
Yeah, a little overcooked there. So now, thankfully, we're going to see some adjustments going into map 2. A lot of substitutions for actually both of these teams. Aiden, although, coming back in for SPG. These are the two extremely experienced DPS players we expect out of this lineup to be playing the majority of the time. And then on the other side of things, EUPHORIA, I mean, basically just subbing around their entire roster.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I think things get curious. When we get a sense, I mean, heading into hybrid, right? We know that there are only 3 maps. I mean, we know which one it's going to be because of the selection that it's I think everything but one now has been Midtown, right? As the map selection.
We're what, 5 for 6 now?
Yeah,
We've yet
it was
to
just
see
that
Blizzard
Linux
World.
game.
We saw Kings Row once.
Yeah. So this is going to be I think the tough thing is identifying for EUPHORIA. Their big issue is that in that first map, they just try to do too much, right? A lot of their composition relied around ultimates. The neutral fights, they had one, I'm gonna say 2 good neutral fights where they were able to kind of clean up very quickly. The problem is, against an Orisa composition, that's not gonna happen very quickly. You're just not gonna get opportunities like that very often. And credit to SPG, right? The ability to hold on and deny multiple neutral fights being lost is a tremendous highlight of their support line. And of course, their DPS, I think, held their own too, right? We were wondering how are KSG and Argon gonna kind of stack up with, you know, the weight of pressure on them. And I think KSG did a fantastic job. Did what was required of him and never looked out of place.
Yeah, KSJ, great start. Won't be in for map number 2, but I'll be happy to see him return at some point should that Orisa composition become necessary once again for SPG. But as we go into Midtown, it's not super likely to rear its head. Instead, we've seen a lot of Sigma here, and honestly, more Winston than I anticipated coming into this season.
Although, it's a case of sample size, right? Or the Winston.
I suppose. But
one team is responsible.
You know, we've seen 2 teams try it.
You're not counting.
Pokerface played a little bit, just a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, but you're not. It was against them. It doesn't count.
Yeah. I think it counts. I think it does. Agree to disagree on math. What else?
There's a statement. Stats can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, not. I'm saying Winston's popular. No, okay, maybe not.
Right.
I mean, maybe it depends though. Like we talk about SPG, we talk about Milgaru and how he's been historically less flexible than we've seen a lot of fellow solo tanks at the very least. Like right now, rolling out on the Orisa, which I just said I really anticipate as a thing. I'm not super in love with Mei here on the defense for this second point either. This looks like a little bit of an outdated composition from SPG.
Well, here's the thing, right? It's a very front-loaded composition. By the way, You're gonna see a lot of subs in the bottom left of your screen as EUPHORIA roll through their entire.
Sunjin done with the Doomfist experiment, instead on the role that he won NA Contenders with and also played for the Seoul Dynasty.
You see the Orisa. I actually do think you should probably go back to this area here.
I mean, Junker Queen just tries to run past it, although fails to get off the Cryo Freeze. But at least Aid makes it good for a trade. Graham trying to make Aid's life a little bit difficult here. EUPHORIA have taken quite a bit of space and just snuck beneath SPG up by the train cart to get rid of Wuchen, who had no way out of that. Now SPG, I mean, they have to come down from this at some point. Although I say that, nobody's actually on the objective for EUPHORIA right now, and Narang gets completely bodied. Lee Soo-min in a bit of trouble and doesn't have, did have the Immortality Field. It was just a little bit late, so Graham chops through everybody. And EUPHORIA are going to make their way to the point.
All right, this is the first time where we've seen a team take a fight off the objective in the this season of Contenders 3 and actually end up winning the point. Because this time, EUPHORIA do the intelligent thing of actually killing the players in the tube, right?
Yeah. You know, they don't just leave them there to come out whenever they feel like playing. Milgar trying to use the Javelin spin to get onto the objective, runs in his backline. Acer's in trouble, but not as much trouble as Sunjin. Or actually the same amount of trouble as Sunjin. They're both down. EUPHORIA aren't going to be able to full cap this, but they get 2 ticks and then some.
Oh man, a game of inches there. It was actually a good play by Sunjin to like bypass the window. Not done yet. They actually want to make this fight happen.
Rampage! That hit some pretty juicy targets. Wuchen, no way he's surviving that one. Although stalled some time with the Cryo Freeze, but what a re-engage!
All right. I mean, I guess SPG thought the fight was over, and EUPHORIA said, hold on.
Yeah, I mean, Neil Garu died. Gurren makes a beautiful call there.
Really strong read. Now you get to load up. And actually, you know, even more impressive, that's not actually that expensive for EUPHORIA. Right? Rampage and the Photon Barrier. Man, I got baited by Abe waving hello. It sounded so much like his ultimate.
It really did, honestly. It really did. That's the ultimate. This time from Sunjin. Charging into Wuchen. How do you ever survive that? That's just rude, EUPHORIA. Why weren't we playing this map 1? Okay, disengage beat, an interesting choice. And Minute, just barely TP's out, but Acer has nowhere to go now. And the range, meanwhile, was falling to Milgaru. EUPHORIA, I don't think they were on the same page there.
A great recovery from SPG this time, right? As we kind of see that one roll through, Acer making a switch now over to the Jericho. Hold on, EUPHORIA. Have they fallen prey to the things are going badly for one fight, so we're switching everything up trap?
Double hit scan, too. Sunjin and Minute here. I mean, both of them are very good at these characters.
The problem is, Minute can't one-shot anything. I mean, the supports, yes, but, like, the supports aren't going to be close enough where that's a big difference.
Actually. Well, I mean, Milgar's headbox is the side of the size of a barn, as long as you can hit the broad side of a barn, and it should be able to pump damage into Milgar or keep him on the back foot. Wuchen is a bit further forward than I would like to see him potentially. Although trying to lock off somebody, but Ace was here to support Sunjin. Whoa, that was nearly all though. Getting his head ripped off too. Wuchen in some trouble. He'll have to back away, but Sunjin, you can't fight in close quarters with a Mei for too long. This is getting a little bit silly, guys. How are all of you still alive? Okay, althoug's done with it. He's leaving. He's out of there.
Yeah, that is just a handshake of like both teams saying, all right, we're moving.
That's so much time. Aid, yeah, now an Ant Matrix eats away at EUPHORIA.
Okay. Wait, hold on. No way they turned this one. No way.
Sunjin finally won it. He finally won the fight with Aldo. Not that it matters. Why are you still here? What is happening?
Sometimes you just gotta fight that just devolves, and you know what?
Sometimes everybody decides the 1v1 is more important than the objective. And they do it all at the same time.
Yeah, I do not like this Widow pick. It doesn't.
It hasn't done squat.
It doesn't do any. Well, it's not that he can't do it. It's not that he hasn't been given the opportunity. It's the Widow literally can do nothing against this Kong. It plays too far away to one-shot anybody.
Yeah, at least the turret one used pretty early here from Aid, so EUPHORIA they have a chance, especially with Sunjin and an overclock. Yeah, he's pumping the damage in and dodging the artillery adeptly. Milgaru not having too much fun, and Aid will hit the floor next. There we go. Finally, A fast, decisive fight from EUPHORIA.
That's gonna actually get them the checkpoint here. You'll be able to hold a forward position with your Terra Surge. The big problem is if they allow SPG to get back out into the open, they have the ultimates to make it work. Ooh, now they actually
finally
get
the Widow does something.
Gets in range to get a one-shot headshot. Let's go.
Finally picked off a support after 3 minutes. Let's go. All right, disruptive field. Actually, that's pretty nice for Milgaru to approach here. Okay, well, he approached too far, and the rest of his team was trying to deal with Grem, who sort of just walked past the Blizzard into the backline. Now, good luck touching against a Widowmaker. Although, with a Cryo Freeze, yeah, he doesn't even want to stay there. He knows he'll get staggered, and the point's already capped.
Okay, now the Widow actually becomes somewhat viable. Is Midtown going to change now? It's going to be so funny.
The other thing about this composition, right? Because you're playing double hit scan, right, effectively, with Sunjin and Minute, like, what does SPG ever do? Yeah, no, although has to swap to the Genji, because what was a Mei ever going to do in that scenario?
It really did
sit there and get picked off.
It really did feel like a 4v4 with two players kind of just existing, right?
I mean, hey, if it's a 4v4 and one side's getting to pick every once in a blue moon, War of Attrition, eventually they'll win. That leaves them only a minute 50 to full cap the map, though, if they want to try and do so. And although already picked up Aster, couldn't quite get out of dodge. That's a bold position for a minute to play in. And Sunjin's not going to be... Actually, Sunjin was in an even bolder position and gets promptly punished.
Now we get back into the form of Overwatch that includes talking about ultimates, because in a final fight, SPG realistically should have everything, right? And you have to kind of favor the defense for that setup, because EUPHORIA have to play on the objective. So SPG can buy time, play for final fight, and then just, you know, shut out EUPHORIA when they go for that penultimate fight.
You really need a big overclock here. Sunjin has to be the entry for EUPHORIA. He's charging forward too. I mean, he wants to take the fight to Sunjin, who's locked in a room where he has no angles. Although it's one back to him, the railgun getting nothing, and then an energy javelin. Finally, Sunjin gets one, and although falls, 5v4 for EUPHORIA, but can they make it happen? Ant Matrix, where is that? Why are we playing with the tiniest corner there? EUPHORIA just walk right past it. They're just walking on top all over SPG. Oh my, oh my, oh my.
And that's such a cheap, that's unfortunately for SPG a cheap fight as well for EUPHORIA. I mean, you said that Sunjin had to be the entry, and happened to be the entry and the exit on that one, and now, I mean, getting into the objective is going to be so difficult. In an open alleyway, everyone is going to be able to shoot down this Ant Matrix, and finally Minute will have an opportunity to have a potential to deal damage.
All on although now. Hold the line for SPG. He's got to get back here. Aid trying to set him up, diving onto Sunjin, but although he takes that opening and tears Narangs down, good work to start this off, and yeah, okay, finally, SPG makes something happen. None too soon as well, as the overtime has been triggered, and EUPHORIA will not be able to finish the map.
SPG bide there. Is the thing there. And the other thing too is EUPHORIA took too long to take that final fight, right? They just kind of let SPG walk at them. And even though Aid lost that head-to-head with the overclock, drew so much attention from everybody that, although was entirely uncontested with
Great fight though from Grem. I love the call. Hey, Milgaru's down. There's no one to protect their backline from my rampage. I see two of them. I'm going. That's really the only reason that EUPHORIA even managed to get this far into the map, which is a pretty decent push still.
Yeah, I was gonna say, all that being said, is that it's rare that we even see the third point, right? The fact of the matter is, EUPHORIA don't have to have a stellar defense, just an all right one, and that Midtown tunnel might end up being the fact that they get past that point might actually end up being their saving grace because of how much time you can stall off on that objective.
Sure. Okay, Sunjin on the Torbjorn here. Become a rather familiar pick. Nothing too surprising for either side as we load into some Prissa's attack. I do have to say I thoroughly enjoyed the Genji. I mean, as long as Aid can get rid of the nuisance that is the turret. Although we'll be able to make Minute, Aster, and Narang's life very difficult.
I mean, the thing is, though, is there's a lot of damage bypass. So although can't go in, really. Even if they're not quite sold on this composition.
Little indecisive as to what they want to run, but they'll solidify. They don't want to waste any more time. If they have to take one fight and then lose and then swap, that's better than hanging around by their spawn for 40 seconds.
Well, actually, although
passive setup here too from SPG.
Yeah,
They're not contesting the alleyway at all. Although is able to set up pretty freely and get right next to the objective without anyone even thinking about it. Get for the turret too. Minute now has a very difficult spot. Is trying to play around this fire truck, but no. Adel shut that down. Can't look both ways before crossing the street. Even a truck's not good enough to protect you, and Aid good for a second already. EUPHORIA are falling apart at the seams on this point A defense.
We have never seen a team set up that passively on this on Midtown A, and that's why. I mean, that's why. You know, letting in a team that can kind of control space that aggressively, and entirely nullify the weakness of the Genji from Although, right? The big problem with Although is that getting into a position where you can actually deal damage is the hard part for the Genji because of the dynamite, because of the turret kind of pressuring you as you kind of go past. And for some reason, EUPHORIA just allowed SPG to get into a position of strength.
That's a nice shot, though, from Graham. Aid getting speared by the energy javelin there. Means that EUPHORIA will be able to stabilize for this choke point. And SPG, I mean, they've got the Ant Matrix in their pocket. That has to be how they open this fight up, but they need to go pretty quickly here. Otherwise, EUPHORIA will start to master ults of their own. EUPHORIA backing up to all the way to the high ground, just trying to buy some time and see what SPG will invest for every single inch.
Also, a much more dynamic look for you with Minute now on the Sojourn.
Very true. Yeah, no, Minute can dive in if he needs to. That Ant Matrix doesn't really give him an opportunity to, though. Not at the players he's been looking at. I mean, it makes Graham's life a little bit difficult, but even after the nerfs, Arish was still very tanky. Aster able to get out of that too, and now an Ant Matrix answered back. Graham, oh, with a much better Terra Surge. Beautifully done. A Molten Core laid down at the feet too. That's a pretty nasty combo, truthfully. EUPHORIA make it happen.
That is so expensive. 8 ults expended in this sort of handshake of a fight that just went on.
Graham? Okay, he's fine.
The healing pylon's there. He's totally okay. I mean, now it's the hard part though. Dragon Blade just needs to get one. Just needs to get one and then survive. And I think you've got enough to kind of force your way forward.
Although does have to be a little bit careful about Sunjin though. Sunjin can get pretty tanky. And there's nothing to really support this blade either. No beat, no nano. So although if he dives in too aggressively with this blade, he can find himself quickly overwhelmed. Can't afford his blade to get nothing. Instead, he's just putting a lot of pressure in. I mean, I love all the SPG players going to that room and forcing EUPHORIA back. If they can't control that hallway, they don't want to really stick around on the high ground. Look, Nilgaru is completely isolated here. Sunjin falls. SPG have tried to flip this map. Well, man, it didn't really succeed. They're back where they started. Although, what is the blade, though? I mean, EUPHORIA are dancing around. A little bit indecisive as to where they want to fight. Here comes the blade. It's good for one already. Diving past the immortality field and eventually gets Aster. That'll be enough. Surely?
If Narang stays alive, if Narang stays alive, there is actually a pathway where this hold comes through. Remember, payload has so far to go.
Oh, that's a nice Ant Matrix there. Graham overextended for how few members of EUPHORIA were left standing. Whoa, and that's the Ant Matrix thrown in there too, and Overclock as well. I mean, that's a lot of damage on Nilgaru, but you don't have anyone to touch. You don't have anyone to touch. Oh no, EUPHORIA, they use 2 ults and don't get to the objective.
3 ults. They use 3 ults.
Oh yeah, they use one core too. I mean, maybe Sunjin swapping. Swap, please.
Oh no.
Please. Oh, he goes.
No.
Sure.
Oh,
They swapped, by the way. It was the other way around.
Yeah.
Sunjin on the Sojourn.
I heard that EUPHORIA is full of drama, but I did not expect it to be like this.
That's not... EUPHORIA, the term, is full of drama. Not the team, guys. You gotta be a little careful there with Fawn. All right.
I mean, like, you're playing for Final Fight now, but the payload's already halfway to where it needs to go.
Really has the overclock. Needs to be the difference maker. That's a nice start with although falling. Not a nice follow-up with Grim hitting him in the side of the head, and even the Terror Surge doesn't finish here. Oh my. Euphoria, they are quickly running out of steam on this defense.
Okay. Somebody's touched though.
This is turning into kind of a nightmare. Minute has to dive forward. At least the respawns are really close, and Euphoria will get a chance to set their heels back into the dirt.
They still have nothing. Captive Sun has been entirely invisible in this map. A lot of, I mean, you know, sometimes you expect it. Okay, we'll draw out resources. It hasn't even done that really. So I mean, Euphoria have to find some way to just trade this Captive Sun for the Dragon Blade.
And SPG has so much.
There it is.
This Euphoria. That's a nice pick. Aid falling, and Sunjin good for a second one. Maybe the problem all along on the attack was just who was playing what character. Sunjin barely been on this Widowmaker and already making it look great.
It also helps that the range is a lot shorter here on third, so you actually have, it's actually a threat. I mean, not to discredit Minute, where you're playing that long in sight lines, it's tough for the Widow to do anything these days. All right, not out of the woods yet, but we're in final fight territory, or last real fight territory anyway. Although it's been a miracle maker before for SPG, we'll have to do it once more. Dragon Blade in the back pocket.
His blades too. Oh, he's so low already though. Has to back up. Milgaru using the Terror Surge there. Immortality Field has to be committed for him, and it just isn't enough. Not against an Ant Matrix. Aid getting one, at least Sunjin falls, but can you really get more than that? Although still holding on to this blade because he knows with that tank, there's no way to finish the map right now.
Like, I do like that stability there from SPG not to overinvest. Right now, I mean, the problem now is SPG, they've run out of time. They've taken too long, and they've tried to play this one a little too, you know, daintily. Euphoria, who have been hanging on by their fingernails at points in this map, are in the final moment going to be able to pressure down, although, I mean, the overclock, you can't just dive in for free, and then these Captive Sun also. If you get tagged by that, you're in so much danger. So, SPG, the win condition is no longer an excellent execution. It is going to have to be flawless from here on out by Although.
Although needs an opening. Someone force the Immortality Field, or get Minute or Aster out of position. Overclock ready though. Minute's not waiting any longer. Just chunking damage into Milgaru, forcing him back, but someone has to step back up to the objective. He gets healed just in time, although looking for an angle to approach with this blade. But is being kept at bay by Sunjin, who swapped over to the Tracer. There's a Captive Sun. Only tags onto Milgaru, and that's not the ideal target for it. Minute good to finish off Aid, who dies too far forward, and Wu-Chan is sent flying with the Energy Javelin. SPG, they fought hard to try and get a 2-0, but they are falling by the waysides now. And will be 1-1 after Midtown.
I mean, the play that needed to win SPG the map ends up not being activated ever, although gets kited out tremendously by Euphoria. And I mean, hey, sometimes a scalpel is what you need, that perfect cut, but sometimes you just need to bring out the baseball bat. Well, SPG never bring it either.
The thing about a scalpel is the guy who's using the scalpel in surgery normally has a bunch of other people around the surgery table who are helping him, right? The scalpel's a very precise tool, and in that composition with the Orisa, with, you know, the Baptiste and the Ilyari, who's helping Although with his blades, right? Who is giving him that extra buffer, that little bit of health that you need to have consistent Dragon Blades a lot of the time. Now, although he made stuff happen without it a couple of times, but in order for that to be the win condition when you need it to be, you need perhaps a Zarya bubble?
I mean, the other thing to note too is that you don't need the blade to actually win you the fight. That is just how SPG played the map, right? if you use it to trade resources away, it's done its job. Just for some reason, not willing to take a negative or a suboptimal play to win them out the map. Instead, they play entirely too passive. They'll take the defeat and now end up 1 apiece as we head into a quick break.
For the second time this week, we're tied up And after halftime, thankfully, we're going to get at least 2 more maps. We get to see Push again today. I guess second series have been a little bit more consistent on being closer in our first series of the day. We have 1-1 between EUPHORIA, previously known as Rhodes, and Sintrissa Gaming on Midtown after, honestly, a pretty odd Lijiang. It's been a whirlwind of a series thus far, LaFon.
Well, I mean, for the side of EUPHORIA, they're going to pretend Lijiang Tower didn't.
And SPG are going to pretend, what, that Midtown didn't happen? I mean, I guess if both teams are just equally in denial, right, it works out.
Well, no, the reason why I'm saying is Sunjin Doomfist really. Whereas on Midtown, it was a little bit closer, right? In terms of like the back and forth. I will say, I think SPG's fault on Midtown. EUPHORIA did a great job of exploiting this, right? It's one thing to say that SPG overstepped or didn't do their job or whatever, but to actually be able to execute on is a different story entirely. But for SPG, the big thing that they kind of their flaw is that on the third point of the end of second where they overinvested, and then the third point where they never invested. They kind of gifted away 2 points, right? So if they can keep that fluctuation more even, hey, maybe this is a 2-0, right? So
that's an if. That's an if to postulate. Pretty big if. Pretty big. The one bright side for SPG is that Flashpoint plays pretty similarly to Control, and because of that, guess how many subs we have for EUPHORIA? Guess who's on tank?
No.
It's not Gurem or Hisung, the 2 players they have signed as tank players. No, instead, it will be Sunjin again. So I think we're going to see a little bit more of that Doomfist.
Sunjin has been in the in that Midtown. Was also practicing his Zarya. Too early.
I don't think so. I don't think so. It was on Widowmaker. I wouldn't say that's similar to Zarya. I wouldn't say it's similar to Doomfist either, but at least Sunjin's shown that one before.
Okay, so
it'll really have to do something special here.
Well, here's the thing. Instead of yes, there we go. Sierra on the Sojourn is what I want to see. Rather than postulating about Sunjin's performance, one of the big issues is that players didn't die when they got that initial dive on map number 1 because of the inconsistent damage of the Soldier. Now with that burst potential, I expect this to be a lot closer, and on top of that, I expect them to ignore Milgaru. The Wrecking Ball is not your target. Focus on the backline of SPG, and then go from there.
And as long as Milgaru's on this Wrecking Ball, it's more difficult for him to provide peel. The Orisa has like the Energy Javelin and Javelin Spin to sort of control Sunjin when he dives in. Milgaru has to really get his timings down. I mean, this is like his hero, right? This is, for a long time, we considered him a one-trick on this hero exactly. Is he able to actually make it happen? I mean, nice knock up onto Narang. Tees up aid for not just 1, but 2. Looking for more as Search flies away. Milgaru help him out with that one. It's not a half bad first fight from SPG.
EUPHORIA, once again, are playing the wrong composition for the style that they're playing. You're playing passively, waiting for SPG to aggress onto you instead of going for the elimination. And yeah, now Sunjin is going over the Junker Queen. It just feels like the opposite style of the personnel that they have in play.
It feels very odd to put Sunjin on Junker Queen after we just saw Gurem do such a beautiful job on it too. Taejong diving in. Oh, Aid getting such good peel from Wu Chan and Lee Soo-min. Taejong was alone there for so long. Yeah, no way he was getting out of that. But Sunjin does answer back. Cost him a support though, so he's falling pretty fast, or at least his teammates are. Yeah, he can heal himself up for a while, but it's not enough to get SPG done.
A lot of the time when we critique players, it's because they've showcased, excellence, and our expectations for them are so high. But for EUPHORIA, I'm just baffled. It does not feel like this is a comfortable look for them, just in general. And right now, who is getting pressured on SPG from the conflict being rushed?
You have a lot of ults too. I mean,
they're all good touch.
Surely a mine. Oh, well, I mean, don't use a minefield now. They didn't get to the point. EUPHORIA, they don't make it in time. So despite a nice pick, despite the rotation, nothing accomplished there. And now we head off to Palace.
And the one upside to getting that late pick is that you get a better position here. But although it's a fast-moving character and you have minefield to hold down the point, right? Like, even in the best of situations, it still feels awkward.
Not die, Search is still so low. Kitsune Rush used to get rid of SPG. Sierra trying to ram into SPG's lines, but they evade it deftly. Here comes a Rampage. At least it's good for one. Doing some damage, but Sunjin now has a beat and can weather that pretty effectively. Wuchan isolated, not going to have nearly as much fun. And Euphoria, make it happen. They'll get this first cap.
One upside to this is that I'm
Eventually,
not entirely sure why we gotta wait around that long, right? You're not winning that fight. You just stagger yourself. Here's where we have to talk about kind of resource investment, right? Euphoria, they're desperate to win that fight. Because again, if they don't, re-aggressing into this is so hard. There's no one you can really pin down. So they had to kind of overspend for that. Now they just have the blade.
I don't think this artillery strike's getting him up. Okay, not quite coordinated perfectly. Milgaru wanted to get a knock up there and tee that up, but it's not going to happen. Instead, the blade's out in the back line. Taejong does have to be a little careful. This is what we were talking about. The blade unassisted. He has to use too much of the deflect per blade time and doesn't manage to get anything. Sierra falls. Sunjin not looking too hot either. And SPG, it wasn't too much of a struggle for them to get back to the point.
I'd like to highlight the only thing that kited that Dragon Blade was the Immortality Field. That was a cooldown for an ultimate.
Immortality Field and a ton of damage.
Oh, tremendous stuff here. Okay, now, I mean, here's where, this is where it slows down even further for Euphoria. I'd like to see them use the Kitsune rushes on the objective, run it down. The problem is, again, this minefield that Milgaru is holding on. I mean, you expect it to, now you won't even need to do it.
I mean, I thought he was going to put that one in. Kitsune rush being used, 4v4, but no Lucio, no way to chase people down. Yeah, I mean, Sunjin and Sierra are stuck in a room with Aldo. Lays a pulse bomb at their feet, nice and tidy.
Oh, that was the Kitsune rush used as well. That's so tough for Euphoria here, right? I mean, this is going to be final fight at this point. It really is. You're going to get in close, sure, but there's no defensive utility. Once the Suzu is used, Captive Sun is more than 3, and that's even assuming you get to the objective with this minefield put down.
I mean, again, does Milgaru even need it? Sierra getting caught off, isolated him, and Taejong not having too much fun, but eventually a headshot rings true. Without a tank, though, how long can you really stay on the objective? Taejong's not even able to get there. Nice displacement from Wuchan to avoid even having to stick around in this fight very long.
Really, really well done there by SPG. The kiting, tremendous. I think this is the big thing with this with SPG is that even when they lose players, right? It's not like they lose position on the map, and that has been historically one of the hardest things when you're down an individual early. Is the fact that you don't have that much presence on the objective, but with the amount of space that Milgaru can handle, that ends up not being a factor at all. And so Euphoria are forced to overinvest. They just don't have the time to do that anymore.
Oh, Narang's in a little bit of trouble too. Milgaru back here. Swift Step gets Naranged out of that one. Can Euphoria counterattack? Blade shut down, and I think that's about all that's going to happen for him. An attempt at a rampage does tag 2. Wuchan and Aiden in a bit of trouble. Sunjin finishes off the Ilya. Euphoria aren't letting this one go without a fight. Milgaru pulled back too. That's a lot of damage being pumped in. Finally, the Wrecking Ball falls. SPG get a couple of percent. They're pumping in an Ant Matrix to try and tee up Aid. Can he lay down the damage? No, not quite. The Ant Matrix not in the optimal position for the rotation. Euphoria end up going for Sierra. That's a little bit too far forward. That's a nice stick. There was no Suzu. And a late beat onto just 3 as SPG have reinforcements arriving. Milgaru, even though he just died, is already back so quickly. Oh, so close for Euphoria. But close ain't enough.
Now, I mean, this was something they invested in, and so with that point never ever actually exiting SPG's hands, it feels like it's going to be final fight right here and now.
Not the late stagger too on Taejong. Sunjin getting hounded here. Okay, just barely survives.
Slowly. Yeah. Real tough situation here for Euphoria.
They have to use the overclock. They have to protect Sierra. Sierra needs an angle, needs an opponent, an opportunity. That immortality field beautifully placed in the corner by Lee Soo-min. No way to get rid of that, so Aid can just hold the line. So much damage already thrown in. Minefield, artillery, all the explosives for SPG. They light off fireworks. to celebrate their anticipated win on Suravasa. They'll go up to match point and get ready to win their first series of the fall series here in Contenders Korea.
For EUPHORIA, it is a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation now. 2 maps they have played, they have looked lost, uncomfortable even. The third has been their own. And so now the question as we head into map number 4, into push, which EUPHORIA are we going to see? Is it going to be the high or is it going to be the low?
Is it going to be the Sunjin tank or will it be the Sunjin DPS?
Man. And
I don't know if I've ever seen, I mean, surely once that I just can't think of, an Overwatch team play this consistently with their roles on a player, right? Like, don't get me wrong, there have been tanks who have like swapped for certain metas to, well, support, and then there's been DPS for certain metas who swap to tank, right? Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but normally it's for the meta. Like, oh, this player is just going to be playing tank for this patch. Not this awkward back and forth where Sunjin's playing not only characters he is allegedly, he wants to excel at, I should say, like the Doomfist, but also overlapping hero pools with Gurem, right? It feels awkward for both of them to be running the Junker Queen. It's not as clean as you wanted to see from this team.
It really, really isn't. Well, we'll see if they're able to solve those problems when we return from map number 4 right after this break.
One more chance for EUPHORIA to try and start their season off on a high note that matches their name. Otherwise, Simprissa Gaming is going to be putting a 1 in the win column for their standings, as well as +2 for their map differential. We're going on to push next, folks. EUPHORIA, it's been we say like these, like, oh, it's been up and down, it's been feast or famine. It's really just literally been 2 different teams. Like, literally speaking, they sub in different tanks, different DPS, even a different support, right? For control, Flashpoint, not a great look with the Doomfist coming out. Things getting a little bit awkward and weird. I wasn't a fan.
So here's the thing.
Midtown looked good though.
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Is like critiquing EUPHORIA is pretty easy because, or correction, critiquing EUPHORIA from the perspective of the game that we are watching is easy, right?
Yes.
Now, I expect that EUPHORIA has practiced the Sunjin composition in scrims. That is why they're bringing it out, right? It's not like they're bringing it out just because, like, oh, we feel like putting a DPS on tank.
Haha, it's funny.
It has worked, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. However, sometimes your practice does not survive into the actual game itself. Sometimes the day just happens and your composition is entirely countered. I do not want to see this Doomfist tank player anymore. It's not working, right?
Yeah.
Especially
as we go into push, right? I mean, you just need something a little bit more consistent for a tank from push. You need that constant presence on the objective. We go to Colosseo is the selection by EUPHORIA for map number 4. I don't think we're going to see a Doomfist here. Call me crazy.
And that's the correct, the biggest results-based analysis, right? But unfortunately, we only have the perspective of the match that we are seeing. Keep in mind, this is the first time that we are seeing EUPHORIA and Simprissa play this season, right? So
on this patch,
all we have to go on is the fact that when the Doomfist is in, EUPHORIA does not have the capability against this team composition to execute their neutral game efficiently. And that's where SPG has looked the strongest, right? In the neutral against the Doomfist. They have shut that down so thoroughly that it went to a suboptimal Junker Queen composition on Suravasa, and even that didn't work out very well. I think that you need to play a more stable, a little bit more slow game, get Sunjin on DPS, on the hit scan, on the Sojourn, unleash him, play to his strengths, and that is what's going to give EUPHORIA the best opportunity to force a map number 5.
We do have word that is going to be the case rosters-wise for SPG, although steps out KSJ back in, presumably. Yeah, because we're going to be seeing the Orisa, likely a Bastion to pair with it. On the other side of things, Grem steps back in and Sunjin sidesteps over to the DPS role. Love to see that Junker Queen rear its head again. I think this is an excellent composition for EUPHORIA based on how good Gurem looked earlier.
I think this also plays on EUPHORIA's strengths, right? players in their best roles. Just overall, Taejong, you know, his best two characters are Genji and Tracer. I don't think we really want to see a Tracer right now. This just allows EUPHORIA to play a much more up-tempo style and not have to worry about being as clinical with their engages as you have to be on the Doom.
This is an interesting decision here from Aid. Normally we'd see a Sojourn in this spot, in this head, because ASJ comes back in and it's although who steps out, right? Aid is gonna play the Widowmaker and trying to make use of this exceedingly long corridor. Makes use of it pretty phenomenally. Gets rid of Sunjin right off the bat. Taejong trying to loop around the side with Search, but a nice shot tees up KSJ to finish that off. And SPG are gonna move this bot on up.
And the strength of your composition is something that, I mean, both these teams could have taken note of on the maps that they lost. Here, what you do is, I mean, we already highlighted why the Widow on Midtown wasn't as effective as it can be elsewhere. Here, though, it is a closer quarters environment where the one-shot headshot, just like that, can isolate a fight. And that is now 2 fights in a row where Sunjin gets put down before it even begins, just essentially ends it.
Yeah, my boy's having a rough day. He's a phenomenal player. You know, played for the Seoul Dynasty earlier this year when they needed a sub, and even won North American Contenders. Sometimes you have a rough day of Overwatch. That's just how it be. But I'm trying to push up, get rid of Milgaru. Taejong narrowly dodges out of that, but Search not so lucky. How do you ever get back here, too? Aid is a terror.
That is 3 fights in a row that Sunjin has not played the video game.
That's 3 fights in a row where Aid has been pretty much the only person in the lobby playing the video game.
That's checkpoint, by the way. 8 minutes left on the clock. We've all been there. Oh, Sunjin, please.
Oh, my poor guy. Aid, this is just bullying at this point, dude. That's wrong. Sunjin even swapping over to the Widow. Oh boy, I think he's a little tilted. Good, I'm charging forward, trying to keep his eyes on the prize. And it's Sune Rush there, and Aid still getting the better of Sunjin. Now focusing on Search. Those two have been in sights all day, but it's a little bit too much this time.
That was
EUPHORIA, with the help of some ults, do manage to get rid of SPG. And they'll get back to the middle of the map.
5-player rampage from Goodium that allows that to happen, though. Everyone grouped up, try to take advantage of the amplification matrix. Goodium times it perfectly to come around the corner so no one could shoot, get that amplified damage, and then everybody's just caught in it. The cleanup is there. Sunjin playing Mystery Heroes on the Tracer. You really need your DPS unlocked to be able to make progress here if you're EUPHORIA.
Taejong is behind. SPG, they want to not worry about him, want to try and push the issue while Taejong's still too far away to get this blade off. They don't quite manage to get rid of Gurem, though. He tucks into a corner, and SPG can't overextend. Here comes the blade. Taejong, 25 health! And no one steps up to help him. Now the Genji, the blade, your one chance EUPHORIA is gone unless you pull off something crazy in the neutral. ASJ does fall, that helps. The captive son unleashed back. The sound barrier keeps it at bay. Sunjin trying to just distract Aid. He's been too much of a nightmare to leave in the back of the fight. But once Sunjin goes down, who's helping Gurem? No one. Aid lays into him and then takes down Search. What is left? Somewhat alone. It's him and Wuchan 2v2. A stalemate.
Here's the thing, a stalemate A favors SPG, but Aid is hitting some absolutely wild shots. You can see how much respect EUPHORIA is being forced to show to him. The Widow has taken this game entirely under his power. At this point now, you need to start chaining together multiple eliminations on Aid, uncontested, to even have a chance at resetting the mental aspect of this game. The momentum is entirely on SPG's side, even if the bot isn't.
What do you do? What do you do when someone's online like this? Sunjin at least threading the needle onto one. EUPHORIA still struggling to hold on here. I mean, SPG are making progress. Kitsune Rush laid down, but EUPHORIA still struggling to turn the corner. Finally, Aid falls a little bit too far forward, and SPG will give up the middle of the map. Finally, EUPHORIA will get more than a meter.
Here's where the progress starts to come in. Okay, so here's where the game gets changed on its head. Half the time bank is left, but Aid is off the Widowmaker. The terror that was the hit scan has been tamed, if slightly. So EUPHORIA's biggest enemy right now is themselves. Right? Playing scared will lose them this map and therefore the match. They need to take control of the objective, play around the fact that SPG no longer has that one-shot elimination possible.
Lijiang wants to get rid of Lee Soo-min, but that healing pylon up there is just so that Wu-Train doesn't have to worry about it. Sunjin good for one. Aid not able to pop a cryo freeze when his head is lopped off by a railgun. This overclock is deadly too. SPG don't really want to try and fight it. KSJ so low, a rampage charging in to finish him off. Immortality field laid down keeps him up for a sec, but only a sec. Lee Soo-min pretty low too, but Gurem can't quite find him. It'll be Lijiang to do it instead. But he's stolen a little bit by Wu-Chan, but it's superficial damage to the progress.
Now here's, I think the other thing too is now this is a much slower composition from SPG. Any progress that is earned by EUPHORIA will be more than if they were able to get back to the, the fight quicker. So EUPHORIA, by the way, I've been playing Mystery Heroes for so long that only now it doesn't feel like they're actually in a composition that works.
Wu-Chan in a little bit of trouble here, needs to hit these shots. Lijiang not quite getting the pulse bomb he was hoping for. That would have been likely the checkpoint for EUPHORIA, but instead, they're struggling on how to approach this one. Wu-Chan's keeping this angle nice. Gurem charges up to him, but is pushed away. Sunjin and Search fall. EUPHORIA can't quite extend that far into SPG's position. Not without dying.
Elimination by Wu-Chan. Sports? I think.
The Lijiang and Narang, they can get out of this pretty easily.
Well, yeah, the fact that we can play out of this easily is actually a boon for EUPHORIA because it means they don't have to fully reset. They can actually just take this fight. You can see SPG, with Wu-Chan being the first one down, they have to play a lot more passively.
We are down to 3 minutes on the clock, though.
Yeah, that's
EUPHORIA
exactly.
need to win still a handful of fights. Sune Rush available. You just charge forward. Do you rush into their lines? Yes, especially when Lee Soo-min is not able to lay down an immortality field. Nice work to start this fight off. That's a lot of healing completely by the wayside now. Blizzard's still available though, so you still need to respect SPG. Oh yeah, there it is. Aid lobbing it in. Freezes up Gurem. But KSJ not able to actually make use of any of that. Gurem comes back, gets rid of Aid, and now is worried about Milgaru. Nice work from EUPHORIA. This is what we've been waiting for.
And that's a really cheap fight by EUPHORIA. Not only do they sidestep the Blizzard with the help of the Suzu Lens Gurium, but on top of that, it's only the Kitsune Rush. Now they have the power position on this map, and with them earning the checkpoint, there is actually a very real chance that they can get this, if they win this next fight, they will take the lead. The bot now unlocks to get that animation going.
Clock available. Artillery slid out of the way. Sunjin, can he find the opening? He's laying into Milgaru and keeping the rest of SPG at bay. But you need more than that. There's the rampage thrown in. KSJ in trouble. Yoink back. Gurem finishes him off and takes an extra shot. But that's your biggest threat eliminated quickly. SPG. Oh! Off the map goes Gurem. Milgaru coming in clutch. Now EUPHORIA, how do they stay on the objective? How do they get rid of Milgaru? There's not enough pressure and barely enough time. Only 90 seconds remaining for them, and if they get staggered slowly here, there will be hardly a chance in the world they can push us to a map 5.
The thing is that there will be forward spawns for everyone. Narang is going to be the one question mark. And that means that a close fight will happen. And on top of that, now SPG only have one ultimate. This is the fight that is going to be realistically the deciding factor.
Not going to be decided immediately. Lijiang, another pulse bomb, just off the mark. KSJ over to the Sojourn now, is tired of getting bullied on the immobile Bastion, wants to instead slide away when Gurem pushes onto him. SPG waiting for EUPHORIA to step up. That Amp Matrix, though, is one EUPHORIA can disengage away from. Aid pretty far forward, already having to use the Cryo Freeze to get out of that. An Immortality Field laid down, too. SPG, they're using everything in their bank, but not getting much out of it thus far. Now EUPHORIA, they can feel the winds changing direction. Aid in a bit of trouble, but he'll at least get rid of Lijiang before he falls into a Cryo Freeze, too, as it comes off cooldown, but eventually does go down. Lee Soo-min is the critical pick. Sunjin doing a great job sliding past most of SPG, getting onto the high ground and getting rid of that Baptiste.
Now we head into the last fight of this map. No matter what happens, before you had to expend, a big pick there. The Kitsune Rush and SPG take over. They're playing to just stop this bot from moving.
Blizzard.
Which has been invisible and escaped multiple times by EUPHORIA, is going to be the ending here.
Oh, Gurem trying to go for something cheeky. Couldn't quite find a target, but Sunjin has one. Lee Sumin's down. Captive Sun doesn't do nearly enough, and he's picked out of the air. Gurem on cart. Don't get pushed off the map again, Gurem. Okay, he's stable. He's still alive. Sunjin even evades Milgaru, and that'll be it for the first time this season. 5 maps are on the table.
EUPHORIA down in the depths of despair at the end of the first fight. 8 minutes left on the clock when the checkpoint was earned by SPG. They buckle down, not after some heroics, I might add. Some mystery heroes played in the meantime, and yet, in the final moments when it all was on the line, clutch out the victory there to force a 5th and final map here in this series.
Better late than never. Figuring out your composition. Excellent stuff by EUPHORIA. It takes them 4 whole maps, essentially, to figure out what they want to do against that Bastion Orisa that rears its head again in this patch, despite some Orisa nerfs. Phenomenal stuff from EUPHORIA. I mean, I really got to give credit to Graham. This Junker Queen has been, it feels like, the difference maker. All of these rampages are something that the composition from SPG really isn't prepared to deal with, right? You think of classic counter picks to the Junker Queen, and it's gonna be the Suzu, the Kiriko. That's absent, and because of that, we head to a map 5. Escort is just around the bend after this break. It finally happened. It's finally happening. We're getting an Escort map in our fall series of Contenders Korea. Welcome back, everybody. 2-2, all tied up. EUPHORIA and SPG have been trading blows all series long. And after a very close map of push that SPG snowballed out of the gate to what was almost an insurmountable lead, it takes a full 8 minutes. But EUPHORIA in overtime finally elapsed their progress. Because of that, we get one more map.
I do have a map now to point to when someone asks me, if someone captures checkpoint in the first 2 minutes and you come back and win, I have an example.
That's true. We know it's possible now.
Now we move over to Escort. Actually, one of the funniest things about Escort this season is there's actually so many maps to choose from, and we almost never see it. Things like Shambali Monastery enter the map pool again. Well, Route 66 as well.
I'm just glad we're not going to Circuit Royale.
Imagine.
I'd actually, I kind of would have, well, but Milgaru with Sigma, maybe not. Look, I was thinking Aid Widowmaker and how he was popping off at first on Colosseo. I was kind of feeling it, but instead, we go to a little bit more of a sensible, stable pick. Route 66 for SPG is where they want to try and change things up. And for the first time, we have no subs, no role swaps for EUPHORIA. The only one subbed in here, KSJ, is going to be out, and although comes back in.
Okay, let's. This is. Here's the thing, right? Laying it out on here is EUPHORIA throughout. EUPHORIA, the 2 maps they lost so far. They played the Doofus. It looked rough. We already touched on this on Colosseo, of course, but playing to your strengths or playing what you've practiced is very important. But if it's just not working on the day, it's just not working.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that Route 66 is where they want to run, the Gurium look. I think they're going to run the Junker Queen here because that's who they have in, but it feels like a map where you want to be a little bit faster. So we'll see how well EUPHORIA can adapt to this pickup. They've done really well with Gurium in my opinion, but
I don't mind this for this meta because there's not much. We don't see very many dive compositions in this meta, other than like Doom trying the Doomfist and like that's the Winston, but that's not what SPG are gonna play here. They're gonna stick to that research sim Bastion comp that we saw last patch, and they're gonna try and make that work. And EUPHORIA, Junker Queen has been their answer. Grim has been their answer for that quite a bit here. SPG do flip the map. That makes things a little bit tricky for EUPHORIA, especially as their backline is getting beat up a bit. But Sunjin with the first pick. Grim falling makes this inevitable, though. EUPHORIA are not going to be able to swing this back. Even if they got 5 picks here, they simply just wouldn't contest the cart long enough. Cade pulls out the turret and gives them a good hosing with bullets.
Yeah, the reason why I think that this is not, I think this is a tough pickup for EUPHORIA, that this is the map 5 that they have to go to, is because it's a no-win situation for them. Their composition really can't rotate to high like, at all, beyond like, you know, grouping up and kind of spew. Yeah, exactly. Whereas SPG can just bypass that phase entirely with a teleport. It feels like a rough pick. And so they essentially have to win the fight on first contest, which is easier said than done against a bad team.
Search down. You're talking about hard rotations. There's no way you're getting away from May. Why am I saying May? Because it was in their last map. There's no way you're getting away from Aid, is what I was trying to say. And although Milgaru, not without your Lucio, that's just lambs to the slaughter.
Here's the tough. I mean, this is the tough part of Overwatch. Right? Sometimes you just don't have what is the correct response to what SPG or what your opponents are running. And I mean, it is the correct pick to run the Junker Queen here, because that's what they've won on today, right? It may have come to a point though, the map selection that was against them just was not ever going to be in their wheelhouse.
Still a lot to be done here. I mean, even if these first couple of points are going to be more difficult, because again, that TP and the high ground and all these different angles the Bastion to play in, EUPHORIA will eventually be able to dig in like a tick to that third point of the map. So the question is more so, can they elapse more time on second than they did on first? 4 minutes and 15 seconds for SPG as they move their way onto the second point of the map. Split position from EUPHORIA, now split off entirely by the photon barrier. In EUPHORIA, they're all on their own missions here, and Search is the only one who comes up with any goods, and that's not enough to halt SPG.
I mean, you said, oh, what is this?
Whoa! Lijiang, are you swapping? Are you swapping, buddy?
I better see an H key being pressed here.
Tracer?
Please. I don't care what it is. Go toward.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Well.
Okay.
So we said lose slowly. They did okay with that for that Cars fight, but now they have nothing to lose slowly with.
And now you're coming out of this tiny choke point against the artillery strike. This is a nightmare. Lijiang. Oh, he's dust. There's just no chance, even with a Kitsune rush. EUPHORIA. They don't even get to touch the point again. This is gonna be almost 6 minutes of time bank. Or I'm sorry, 5 minutes of time bank going into third.
Well, unlucky.
Sometimes that's all you got. Oh boy. This is where EUPHORIA have to come alive. Even more so than they did conceptually when we very first started. Are they trying to go after Tiny Choke again? They're trying to rotate around the map, but there's still turrets. There's still a Terror Surge, an Amp Matrix. So much damage. How much heavy lifting can this sound barrier do? Gurem pinned into a wall, and his own ult gets nothing because of Wu Chan's beat. EUPHORIA, at least they're taking fights, lots of fights. If only they lasted longer.
And now we see the Zarya on third and final point. Oh no. Oh no. EUPHORIA, I mean, hey, saving grace, SPG used everything. We're looking for silver linings. We're looking for silver linings. Sunjin almost has an overclock.
Big dark cloud to try and lift with that silver lining. Here comes a TP in. Oh boy, this backline is in some trouble. And only so much an Immortality Field can do here. And Gurem's now left out pretty much high and dry. Lijiang has to grab a health pack instead of helping his team, although Gurem doing a decent job of taking a couple down with him. SPG have much further spawns here, so EUPHORIA will be able to get back in some semblance of time.
Here's the problem. The only real ultimate that's going to be available is the overclock to start this fight, and unfortunately, all those photon barrier will entirely nullify it. We're seeing a lot more horizontal photon barriers as of late, and you know, when you're on one side of the map, you're unable to be supported by anybody on your team when that comes up.
Random lobs of artillery there. That's not a random push though. That's beauty. The one player who had an overclock used in everything. Sunjin stuck before he could even pull the trigger. Still over 2.5 minutes as SPG sail all the way through Route 66. A couple of last desperate contests, but it doesn't last very long. Neither did EUPHORIA on their defense, truth be told.
I mean, this is where the philosophical question comes in. Do you go back? You run the high mobility, high ground contest composition that you run?
They can't make role swaps mid-map, so we're not seeing Sunjin Doomfist.
That's what I'm saying at the start of the map. That's the question, right? I do not fault EUPHORIA for making this call. I really don't. It's great map selection by SPG. I'm giving a ton of credit to SPG for forcing a question that is fundamentally impossible for EUPHORIA to answer. This is not to say the map is over, right? I think EUPHORIA will have a fighting chance here on offense, but it is a significant, it's a very difficult place to be in. And this is the thing about Loser's Pick that has been, you know, one of the strongest reasons as an argument for it, is this particular setup by SPG heading into Escort.
Yeah, they've certainly earned the advantage they've garnered going into what might be our final round of the series. SPG not continuing on the Orisa, it seems. Instead, Milgar going for a more dynamic pick of the Wrecking Ball. Again, a hero he is very comfortable and formidable on, so not too surprising.
But here's, I mean, the reason, you know, we said EUPHORIA have to lose slowly on their defense. SPG can lose slowly on their defense, right?
Yeah, which is why I maybe would have liked to have seen the Orisa, but I mean, Milgar has more than adequate sustainability.
I think the reason why the Wrecking Ball makes a ton of sense in terms of losing slowly, if it gets to that point, is how much more difficult it's going to be for Sunjin to actually play the game. He's going to be hit with a knockup, and then when you're in the fight, when you're in the thick of things, to have that happen and then get sprayed down by a Bastion, like there's nothing you can do about it. Even Immortality Field will not save you from that.
I like the swap from Gurdem, though, not committing to the Zarya after you see the Wrecking Ball. I mean, that knife, Gracie, can really be obnoxious. And you get a little bit more consistent damage, especially since it's going to be a bit hard to get value out of the bubbles against a Wrecking Ball, too. I think the Queen makes a good bit of sense. And Search needs to not die early on in these fights. Wu Chan I could have said the same thing for, but Taejong will not give him the chance. Not much contesting going on for SPG. They're a little all over the place. Milgaru on his own mission in the backline. Gurdem does fall, but SPG's so low, it hardly matters.
That is a really clean fight from EUPHORIA too. Not giving SPG the opportunity to get that setup that they want to, right? With that knockup into the Bastion. And who cares about the high ground when you kind of force everyone into a fight in close quarters? Excellent stuff from EUPHORIA.
Although immediately off from A too.
I mean, what are you walling, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great call going on to the Tracer, making Taejong's life a little bit more difficult. Ant Matrix, pretty hard to contest against that, but a nice corner SPG are holding on to here. Taejong not really able to find an angle either. This Bastion on the high ground is a problem. That's that high ground you were talking about. Milgaru overcommitting to the cart just a tiny bit. Does give EUPHORIA a chance. They now have a little bit better staying power, or they would if their supports were alive. But instead, although we'll just hunt them down one by one by one. Now why are we throwing in such late ultimates? Gurdem, you're not clutching this 1v4.
And I am not even going to give EUPHORIA the credit that it pulled out the Ant Matrix from Lee Soo-min. I will not give them. I will not give that as a benefit.
I wouldn't trade an Ant Matrix for a Rampage.
What if it was a shiny?
Dang, got me there.
SPG. I mean, the other thing too is like looking. This Ant Matrix. This is all about time too, right? Like the time bank has completely elapsed.
Lost 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, unless Taejong carves SPG up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Oh, okay. Sunjin could also get one, but he falls immediately afterward. Captive Sun splitting EUPHORIA as well and making them take cover inside of Big Earls. Graham at least dodges the pulse bomb, so there's that silver lining again. I think it's still a pretty dark storm cloud. Yeah, we need to cut that cloud out of the sky. Taejong doing so pretty well. Eventually, EUPHORIA will get their hands on this first checkpoint. But it took them almost 3.5 minutes of their time bank.
Now, when we're looking to second phase here, remember this is where losing slowly continues to be sort of a discussion. There is nothing on EUPHORIA that is going to allow them to snowball through this first fight. There's no guaranteed fight win for them on this. Especially, even when they have ultimates, there's no guaranteed fight win because of how tanky a lot of the players in SPG's side are, right? And trades simply cannot happen. You have to win flawlessly. and without support, without support ultimates rather, in the form of the sound barrier, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. So SPG, all they have to really do is, you know, go down to 30 seconds, and then they give up third point. They're okay with that.
That was almost a perfect pile driver from Milgaru. Height disadvantage, or the height advantage, I should say, not quite playing the way he wanted it to. EUPHORIA taking so much damage, though, and getting so little card progress for it. There's an Ant Matrix. That'll try and clean SPG off the point, but a deep dive past the window, smashing through it and onto Narang. At least Sunjin will trade this out, so both Baptistes are gone for now. Nice Captive Sun! That's so much damage splashing into EUPHORIA, and they did not bring their ponchos.
Now we go down to the last 2 minutes. This point, I mean, EUPHORIA investing too, right? They every fight is a must-win fight for them. Because if they lose, by the way, if they lose this one, they're down to like what, 40 seconds left? Oh, Sunjin forced a recall feels so rough.
Backs very much against the wall here for EUPHORIA. Sunjin on the Tracer. I mean, this is one of the picks Sunjin made his name on, so if there was ever a time for him to pop off and turn this around, it'd be now. But although doing a little bit better on the Tracer, at least to start this fight off. Losing your Kyoko so early, I mean, this surely has to be a junk fight. EUPHORIA, can they really hang around inside the saloon and wait for the swift step back? Look, although wants to cut Narang off before he can get in range, a long rotation from EUPHORIA, they're struggling to regroup. Ooh, that's a nice post bomb! Beautifully done! That's what we've been waiting for. Sunjin with an opening, and that leaves the pressure. Now can EUPHORIA capitalize? Turret form, not getting much. Grem charges him down, and Sunjin coming back from behind. Getting the flank there, too. Not all done and dusted, though. EUPHORIA, they can't afford to hemorrhage any more members.
I mean, this is still going to be a recontest available in the last 30 seconds of the point. Milgaru was at full HP, hovering around the point. There's the minefield in tow as well to make sure that overtime contest is so very difficult. And that's the fact that Taejong's not available yet.
Ooh, the Suzu had to be used pretty early too. Graham solo! Just barely getting away, but EUPHORIA, they barely got 20 health across the board. Okay, Narang and Graham will manage to disengage, pile back up, and now they can force the objective. A blade, Rampage both in hand. So much damage, and Graham's not prepared. The beat's just a little late. Taejong, he doesn't get squat with the blade. 4 seconds remain, and out EUPHORIA. It was well fought on this second point, but it just took too long. SPG whittle the time all the way down past 0 and get themselves a map 5 win.
Masterclass from SPG there, all the way from the out-of-game setup to their in-game performance, as they'll take the 5th final map here and to eke out a victory. Close, it must be said. The team that drops from the Owl knockouts here into Contenders Korea, a return to them. And yet a map 5 victory is their opening factor. An unreal performance there on that final map. 2 minutes 40 ball on that 3rd point capture.
Summer stage knockouts in the Overwatch League were difficult for Simprissa Gaming. They certainly didn't get nearly as far as they wanted to, finishing off in 7th, 8th place. They hardly even got a chance to strut their stuff against Overwatch League teams. At least they got a win, I think, against the Shanghai Dragons, but still, they hoped for more. Today was a hard-fought series, but they get it done. They make it happen. 1, 3, and 5 is enough for them to add up to a series win. Phenomenal stuff for a team that honestly was one of the teams that didn't really make that many adjustments to their roster coming out of the knockouts either, right? It's really just Lee Soo-min who comes back, but today our player of the match has to be Milgaru.
And Milgaru, I mean, you know, coming in earlier on in SPG, in fact, when they went to the knockouts that first time around, Milgaru was brought in as a substitute player, right, to round out a couple of the picks that he had. The Wrecking Ball, most notably, has added to his hero pool in the form of the Orisa. The real terror is still his signature hero. And I mean, the lockout on Suravasa and then the masterclass on Route 66, really in large part due to the performance in the Wrecking Ball.
Yeah, Milgaru is slowly but surely expanding that hero pool, right? You know, when we first saw this guy, 100% ball 1 trade. His Wrecking Ball is still phenomenal. I still think it's his best hero too. but the way he was nailing these energy javelins, look how he chases down Gurem. He's very confident on these, I'll say sustainable, or at least hard to get rid of tanks, right? The tanks where he can be where he wants and stay there for a long time. Does a phenomenal job on it. I mean, you know, the way he just pounces on people with the energy javelin, I have to love. Phenomenal stuff. Oh, is this the knock off the map? Yeah. There goes Gurem. Great stuff from Milgaru and the rest of SPG. Euphoria, a hard-fought series. One that I think they will learn a lot from, LaFon.
Yes, and this is actually, you know, maybe this is just a day of thing, right? Where, I mean, listen, they've definitely run that Doomfist before in different situations. It just wasn't quite the mark they were looking for. And I think, you know, the fact that they take 2 maps off of SPG means that even though they lose here, it is not a, you know, a season-ending performance. There is still very much an opportunity for them to fight for a position in the playoffs. It just requires a little bit of a retooling to get into when they get into those next couple of matches they have next week. But for now, yeah, they'll take lessons from this for sure.
Especially considering that theoretically they still want to beat up on some of these WDG Open teams, right? You just have to be third. So even if Euphoria end up bottom of the 3 teams that come from the knockouts in their group, that'll be enough to get to playoffs. Maybe you can buy yourself that extra, you know, half a week-ish, right? To reformulate some of these plans on Control and Flashpoint. Just a couple of wins are necessary. And in your loss, taking it all the way to 5. Again, as much of a silver lining as you can hope for in a game that admittedly was still lost.
I think there's plenty of like positives to take from you know, their performance.
Certainly.
When they won.
I think Gurem played phenomenally. I think, you know, Sunjin, when he wasn't getting annihilated by a Widowmaker and when he wasn't playing Doomfist, is still a very formidable play. Again, this guy won NA Contenders and played pretty decently for the Seoul Dynasty when they needed him to. So yeah, we know the skill is there. Sometimes you have an off day though.
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of the, you know, even on this 5th map, it really did feel like it just was clearly that they didn't have the comp that they were trying to actually play. The fights they were taking just felt a little awkward at times, and you know, you don't have access to high ground when a mobility composition is against you. You're going to lose that more often than not. So, yeah, definitely a case of needing to learn from mistakes, but I expect them to come back stronger the next time we see them around. Though the story of the day really is SPG.
For sure. And SPG with some new players too, right?
Yes.
Like Argon has dipped his toes into Contenders' career before, and KSJ has technically been on some rosters, but hasn't really gotten any play time. They both looked great when we saw them play today. You know, Argon on the Symmetra, and the Bastion, of course, for the other team. That is going to be our map, or our match number 2, rather. We got one more for you, though. Panthera versus Zero after a break.